Hello, welcome to Jadekind Gaming. My name is Adam, and I am here with another of the Actually Building a World videos. And this time it's getting real. Last time I was figuring out what do I need to plan in order to, actually finally play in Amotra, the world that we've been building. Well, this time it's okay. I'm prepping the campaign, or heading towards prepping a second campaign even. Whatever. But at the time of recording this, I should be less than a week before characters are being made. Dice are being rolled. So, I'm really oh, so I don't just need things to run for running a campaign, but I gotta figure out everything I will need for running this campaign. The Foundation of Wizards, or I don't know what it's gonna end up being called. It's campaign 1 that I'm gonna be setting in Amotra is about the founding of a wizard institution, school, and wizardry in general. The idea that there have not been learned wizards. There have been, of course, sorcerers, natural born. There have been warlocks and clerics and paladins that have some powerful being bestow magic upon them. There have even been bards who have learned to utilize the fact that the world was sung into being and to play out magic through music. But the idea of now wizards are starting. Someone's decided, hey, if people can do that, why does it work? Does it have to be music? Maybe we could reverse engineer it through math and make it work without needing the music. And bend magic to our will. Wizards. And so the first campaign is the foundation of wizardry in the world. So that's the campaign I've been working on developing, as I've been getting information from players as far as what kind of characters they are going to be making, and I've needed that so I can have the things ready that they're going to need for making their characters. So we got things in the world. We got things for another campaign. And for this campaign, I think this was Magic Nation and Anti-Magic Nation before. They've got names. Anyways, let's first hop into a document. I have a couple documents that we'll be going through, and some stuff I will be more reading, some stuff I will just kind of scroll through, and because there's a lot, because I have had to prepare a lot. But new stuff. I figured out I need the name for nation, cities, and deities. And I have at least should be enough for session 1. Almost. At least enough for character creation. I might need a couple more cities before session 1. Because I don't know if I have the name of the city or even the nation that I'm going to throw session 1 in. Now that I'm looking at this. Oh well. We'll cross that bridge when I come to it. For this. So, Magic Nation. A lot of it's going to take place in Magic Nation. That I know that's an involved area that I want for this campaign. So, I'm okay, the language there, English-based. That'll let me start getting names of places. So I use Thesaurus and Google Translate for Latin, since Ancient Elvish is Latin inspiration, to help come up with names of a lot of places, looking up biomes. So I have the Köppen climate classification regions, but it's okay, so that's what kind of precipitation and temperatures we have in this region, but what kind of biome, what kind of plant life or vegetation or whatever does that lead to? So in the different climate zones, I'm breaking them down. Anyways, so I got regions, named regions on the map, and I'm going to actually go over to the map. So I have this little document here that up to about these bullet points has info, and I have it on my phone. So I can actually pull up the map. These ones are in here. And so Oramnis is the name of the nation. It's political. We're just going to turn that off so we can see below it. And I will actually, because I'm going to use this view, I'm going to just briefly also turn on the climate classification map. So you can see different regions. Some of them, like the hillside, it doesn't necessarily really break down on a line of a region. But things like, to a large extent, like the Great Expanse, a lot of that does. The Olive Coast and the Gygus Woods definitely break down on a coastline. And then others, as we turn off this, if we get rid of our here, you can kind of see where the rivers are. Things like the Leopard Weald goes right along the river. So rivers are also borders for things. So things as I do is I've just kind of different ways that I've used the steps that I've done so far to prepare drawing these regions. But let's see here. So Oramnus will be the name of the magic nation itself politically, which is taken from the Latin translation of coast stream, Orem, Amnis, and then pushed together. The Leopard Weald is deciduous forest region that is known to be home to, as the name suggests, leopards. Fun. Attacks are not unheard of to farmers and ranchers whose fields border the forest, as well as the loggers of the oak woods to the east. Let's see here. The Orzia hillside is grand fields of rice stretching up from the side of a mountain for miles. The river base is home to the nation's original capital. It would be Orzia would be the ancient Elven word for rice, so I'm sure it's the Latin word for rice. When I say original capital, in this first campaign, it's going to be the capital. And then Halburn, nation's original capital of Magic Nation. And I even wrote my notes here, actually, and capital during the first game I'm running. Named after Oliver Hall, nation's king when lands were entrusted by the elves who were moving onward. The city has an elven district. So just little bitty notes. Like, I don't have very much detail about things there, but it's something to get me going if all of a sudden the campaign turns there and I'm not prepared. The southern fields, just below it, is a wide spread of farms and ranches where they grow things such as tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, squash, leafy greens, lettuce and spinach, cilantro, oregano, parsley, and avocados, and raise cattle, sheep, and ducks. Coast has a number of towns and villages which also are involved in fishing and serve as ports to export the produce to the capital to the north, as well as other cities and towns in the region. So I looked up, based on like the climate classification and information on that, like what are some possible plants and animals that would be raised here? And I used that. So I looked up what kind of produce could we have, and I decided on things here. Do I need it? Maybe not, but it can probably help inspire based on what foods are grown in the region. Maybe what kind of dishes that might be interesting are available in the region. Then, because I didn't just like start on one end and move up, then I did the Great Expanse, which is, as the name suggests, big area. Great Expanse is a massive stretch of natural grassland and is home to herds of wild horses, from which the domesticated horses commonly used originated. I'm like, I want horses in the area. Where are they from? That was my idea. I was like, I want to be able to have horses. I like horse travel. That's a very D&D kind of thing. Let's make sure we have somewhere where they're domesticated from, and that it's in this region and not like on some other continent or something. So there you go. Then zooming back in. Down here, we have Fort Edith, a city and fort at the southern border of the Magic Nation. So just pointing out that's south border. There we go. Got a city there. Oakwoods, which is right around it, is a region of forest maintained for forestry by the Magic Nation and dominated by the oak trees that can be useful with construction. Responsibility from one generation to the next to maintain. Lumber brought either from southern fields or to Fort Edith to be shipped elsewhere within the Magic Nation or beyond the borders for raised profits. So here is like a dedicated lumber area where they are doing careful forestry, and then I point out like the different areas where they would ship that off from within nation or to make profit. But yeah, that's again just, yeah, I want to have hardwood things here. There's got to be trees around. And I can tell by the fact that I'm calling it Magic Nation as I go through the notes at this point. I probably went back and add the name of the nation. Around this, I probably came up with that as I went. Because I'm still calling it Magic Nation at this point. Gygus Woods. That's going to be up here. Still on the idea of I want trees. Gygus Woods is a coastal section of forest with a high population of giant redwood trees. Because those are cool. They're huge. So I was one of them around. So, giant redwood trees. And home to one of the area's remaining secluded elven communities. Region is subject to heavy summer fog. Different things I looked up with the summer fog is, I'm sure, based on the climate classification. And I was like, okay, we'll add that fog rolling through like giant wet redwood forest. I'm like, yes. Then right beside it, Olive Coast, is natural shrubland. Dull-colored shrubs separated by bits of hardy grass, rock, and bare earth, with just a scattering of trees. The region is, however, home to many olive groves, which produce oil and other olive products, and export them through a series of villages along the coast. So the idea is there's lots of little villages and towns all around here. I've named 2 of them, but there are more. I'm just putting comments like there are a bunch of little coastal towns and such. Maybe someday I will add them all to the map, but not yet. There are also a few prominent vineyards producing grapes and wine. Region is subject to daily morning fog during the dry summer months. Again, an area of just fog rolling up. And again, that's all Mediterranean coast area. So, yeah, it's just looking into like what might grow around there. Then we get Timberland. It's a stretch of deciduous forest, home to a number of logging communities. Again, more wood. Less of a much bigger area, less focus on like the specifics of it, but that's it. And also, if you notice, it's here, but it stretches all along this area down, so that the Great Expanse has a lot of trees on it because that area is just all connected to Timberland. And then we have Norrange is the range, North Range, is the range north of Holborn, which is home to many farms, producing mostly wheat and barley or raising dairy cows or chickens. Again, they had farmland and such to the south and to the north, different things in different areas, slightly different climates and such. Let's change up what you get. But between Olive Coast, Norrange, the southern fields, the Orzia hillside with the rice, all sorts of different things for different foods combining that we can figure out, well, what foods are available in this area. Do I need that for D&D? No, I don't. But it's fun and it's interesting, and that helps me with motivation as I continue to build a world. But that is the end of that little section. So we're going to just go here. I also want some more heroic catalyst options for a sword and sorcery setting on another continent. Because, as I mentioned, I'm getting ready to start a campaign in like a week. But I'm also kind of preparing for another campaign that I'm not sure when I'm going to be starting. But while I was throwing all this stuff together, someone else from church mentioned wanting to play. And I'm like, I could maybe run another new game. So I was like, okay. I talked to them about like what they were interested in, and I was like, okay, that's going to be a very different field. This is very wizardry. That's very sword and sorcery. You know, Conan the Barbarian or something like that. I've never seen it, but the vibes. So I'll need another continent, heroic catalyst options. I want to make a few Godborn. I was like, I haven't made any of those. Irony. I've made some more now. So I need the gods that they can be descended from. So I'm using Google Translate and baby name sites to come up with names, right? I want one descendant of Flos, god of nature, which I already had, and two from something, the god of warfare. So, name the god of warfare. Bellum, Latin word for war. I ended up doing that a lot. A lot of that tier of gods ended up just being the Latin word. Almost the idea that they were named from the elves, and more that those words are, that's more, it's almost like I'm using that translation of ancient Elvish to be it, but really more that their words would have come from the names of the gods, kind of thing. Let's see. Plesa is a feminine given name of African Basotho origin, meaning flower. Jengo is masculine name from South Africa. Zosa origin, meaning brave warrior. Aloysius is masculine name with Latin origin, meaning famous warrior or famous in war. So these are three names that when we get to the gods and the Godborn, they will all come up. And that's just me noting where I got them from, which is really good because some of those African, South African origins are things that as I realize, okay, I'm going to be designating languages in different areas and naming them and all that, I'm like, good to keep track of where certain things are referencing to. But we did get just a couple more little bullet points here on the map. Because this is this area here. And I guess I'll point out, if I turn on political, Hamat, which was named quite a bit later, doesn't have any detail in it, but I need to at least go to that level and try and figure out what are the names of various nations. I need to get the ones like between them before I can run session 1. But I do have Munal over here, which this is the area where I'm like, ooh, an area for sword and sorcery. So I guess I can leave that up. But I just got a couple more notes here for those bullet points. So more regions and name regions added to the map for this other campaign. Munal is the name of the region itself, politically speaking, taken from the Wolof language translation of curse, after playing with a lot of words until I liked something. And that is another African language. Tawal, on the south here, is a temperate rainforest composed of mainly deciduous trees, though mixed with coniferous trees on the northwestern part of the region, so near the next region that we'll be naming, with a dense canopy and a wide variety of ferns and mosses that grow within the understory. Receives abundant and frequent rainfall, has mild temperatures in both summer and winter. Area has great biodiversity and is dominated by packs of dinosaurs, such as Deinonychus, which are basically like the Jurassic Park raptors. What they call raptors in Jurassic Park, those things. I was like, yes, dinosaur hunting ground. That sounds like a fun forest for a D&D game. And then Toppin, just above it, is a boreal forest, or coniferous rainforest, with tall pine, spruce, and fir trees that form a thick canopy and sparse understory, with only mosses, fungi, and fallen needles. The more dangerous creatures to be wary of in the forest are wolves, bears, and moose. Moose are terrifying. But yeah, so again, just area, bit of thing. I'm probably going to have maybe some villages along the border by the time I get to running it. Again, I started working on this because I was like, oh, I got another campaign to prep for. And then I'm like, oh, things are getting really real with the game that's starting, for me now in a week. So I jumped back. I noted some sites here. So translation, because I just use Google for translating, and then different things for different biomes that I'm searching for. Because as I go through, I'm like, well, what's in the different, climate classification areas? What do we got there? So I look up biomes. So I've linked to a couple because I kind of had to pause some of the stuff on that region and go back to stuff I needed. So back to the campaign that's about to start. I learned that I was needing some info on the god of magic for one of my players in the wizard campaign. I decided on the name Magus, keeping it simple. Came up with one of the descendants for them, Une. Again, we'll get more onto several of these when we get into the other document. Like, this is like a notes document. And I need to really start, as things are copied over, deleting stuff for, because it's getting ridiculously long. But it's a great place just to spur of thought, add stuff in here. I also, for another player, am needing a dream god. I went through and decided to look up Latin words for many of the concepts used in the third tier gods. You know, we have the Primoris that created Ignis, Creta, Stella, and then those three created all the gods. The origin story I've gone through in the past. I'll scroll over it as I go through because I have now inserted all of the names and all the blank spaces that used to be there. But so I came up with concepts for those third tier gods, as Latin is Ancient Elvish, which many of the older gods were named with, or vice versa, and locked in all of their names. And I looked up names that mean dreamer, and I decided on the French name meaning dream or a creature of the imagination. Shamir, for the goddess of dreams, who is like a fourth tier, as you'll see, I think under beauty. Who I placed under Ella, goddess of beauty. I got request to do blood magic sorcery subclass with the ability to spend hit dice like sorcery points, and when out of hit dice to take damage to manifest equivalent effects. But then I learned I'm not needing it for the current campaign, so I'd left the note there, but I added that because I'm like, oh, I'm not working on it yet if I don't need it for this game. But I have a player that's interested in that for a theoretical future. Continuing to work on naming things, I named the 4 major continents, which we'll get to in the main document. Decided on the name of the nation that will be Anti-Magic Nation in the future once the war is on. That's the Heimat that I mentioned. I realized that since I am just basing all of my languages on Earth languages, I might eventually conlang 1 or 2 myself, but at this point I'm either basing them on, this is based on English or German or whatever. That I wanted to use language families to keep languages that are related to each other. Germanic languages like English and German and such are related. Okay? Just like French and Spanish. Basically, languages branch off as where they come through and stuff. So I was like, let's keep ones that are similar geographically close together. Makes a little sense on how, and obviously you can have outspurs. Someone traveled somewhere, and all of a sudden that became the language that merged with something else, etc. Things happen. But for the most part, a lot of similar ones are going to be somewhat close together. So I just looked up and found images online for, big charts of connected languages, and then I did the same thing to find a separate chart for languages in Africa, since I've already used a few African languages for that continent on the west side of the map. I'm like, okay, so how are those ones connected? And I'll do the same thing with those just to bring connections and make things make sense. Also, I realized I needed a calendar. And I need to figure out the year to get things started. I still don't know what year it is, and I still don't actually have a calendar. But I've started, as we see here. I looked at Wikipedia's page of lists of calendars. It's just a page on Wikipedia, and there's just all sorts of different calendars. So, different styles of calendar I can use. And I found the pentaconad calendar. I only looked at solar calendars. There's lunar calendars, solar calendars, lunar solar calendars, seasonal. There might be another type. There's different ways that people do or in the past have used to track time and document it. I'm used to a solar calendar, so I wanted to do that. I wanted it to at least kind of make sense. And I bothered to make the planet physically similar, like an Earth analog. So it would have basically the same number of days, same sort of system for that. So I was like, because I kept all that the same, let's do a solar calendar. So this pentacontad calendar has 7 periods of 50 days, so 350 total, plus an annual 15-day period at the end of the year. Each 50-day period is divided into 7 weeks of 7 days, and 1 spare day outside of the weeks. I like the idea of keeping 7-day weeks. That just for brain work good. I might, when I name things, I might even try and keep the same first letter or something to almost trigger it in your brain of what we're looking at. I don't know yet, but again. So, easier to remember, 7-day weeks. I like that it's based on periods of 7. You get 7 periods of 50. I have 7 stats in my world. I've already associated those with constellations through the first of the Star Blessed, the first heroic catalyst that I focused on. So I could have, like, the months named after the constellations or somehow tied to that. Like, those are the constellations that are in the sky during each of those months, those 50-day long months. I also like that there are days outside of the weeks, that holidays, special festival days. It's not like, oh, this is on Tuesday this week and Wednesday, or this year and Wednesday next year. No. It's always at the same point. It's after the third week in the month of Dolphin falls a 3-day festival. So after, if it were our days, Saturday, you get 3 days, and the 4th day, that's Sunday. Those 3 days were not part of the week. Those are extra days. Those are a holiday. I like that. It's different than I'm used to, but it's a thing that I enjoy. And I'm making up this world in this calendar, so I'm going to do what I like. But yeah, so I'm going to notes. I already have the months even, something like that. I also like there are days outside of the weeks for holidays to be placed. I will likely divide up that 15-day period that's at the end of the year on this calendar and place it throughout the year at different points. None of those days will be considered part of a week. So again, work in progress, thinking on it. But I at least got things going that I can hopefully, in the next week before I actually start playing, can have enough of a calendar to get things going. I don't necessarily even need the whole calendar. I need to figure out the year and like what current month and week or day it is when we're starting. And then I can work on it a bit more after that. Another concern, and this might be specific to my players and the crazy that they are, but another concern is doing world building, knowing that the campaign is going to be about wizards and discussions of magic in general. And I have players that will likely want to discuss spells in regards to spell level. And if I don't have an in-world way to reference that, 9th level spell, 4th level spell, then they're going to come up with a dumb one. They've done it in previous campaigns, and I wasn't prepared for it, and this is specifically going into magical research people. They're going to come up with a dumb one if I don't come up with one. So I'm going to beat them to the punch. And I looked up music term for 9 notes in a row on Google. It's nonopal, meaning 9 beats in a measure. And I learned that this is a type of tuplet, multiple, tuplet, and that those terms go up to at least 9. So I have whatever number I need for those. And I think that this is the terminology I'm going to use. Again, work in progress. I'm still figuring it out. But magic is based on music in this setting. There are ties to music. So grabbing a musical term for it, and the idea of... So a measure is your ability to cast a spell. And so being able to expend a nanuple... I'll probably have to look up pronunciation guides on all of them because weird words, but that requires you to get 9 beats into that measure. Nine beats into that the extent of casting that single spell, and that's of course more than a lower number. And so the idea of just being able to then reduce it and use the terms across each level of spell, I'm like, that way it's musical terms. So I think I'm going to do that. So that's as far as this new stuff document goes. But I've said, we'll get to things. Because, this is the middle of the document. I have this document. This is the document that I think I showed before. Actually, I know I did, because this black text here is text that was in here before. This sort of blue text is new stuff. Because as I've added things, I have kept blue text. The blue text is text that is new. Yeah. So it's just helping me to see, so I can basically keep putting information into this document, and anything that I'm putting straight in here instead of my notes document, so that it's in order and where it needs to go, we can keep them. So I determined a way of determining ability scores before. I came up with another way, or really 3 more ways, that I think I'm going to use for this campaign. Again, options to make sure that they are really going to have good stats. Select one of the following. Options for, whatever, a few, 46 drop in the lowest. Either doing a couple sets, doing 10 numbers in a set and only using 7 of them, or the great roll 21 d6s, reroll ones once, and then just pair them together as you want. Complete freedom. And then a way at the bottom there to increase if you end up with, or in that lower one, choose to get low stats, that you can bump them up a little bit, throw some extra numbers in there for having lower stats. Great. But yeah, you can pause and read if you want. Stat generation stuff. Otherwise, I guess I've already gone over allegiances. I created this little section that I didn't do anything with, because I was going to need to make blood magic sorcery, and as I start prepping for figuring out what on earth am I doing with this, I was like, I don't need it now. I was like, oh, okay. Well, am I going to do it now? We went over species already. I'd done that last time. I added a little section for feats. I only added one new one, and I have a playtest note. Everything, obviously, is playtest note, but I added this because I'm like, I might see it in play, and I might change it for your current character. A lot of things, if I mess them up, I'm just going to be like, fine, have the broken version for this campaign. You're having fun with it. This is one I'm like, I might not. But it's the idea of I might make a series of feats that let them use their luck stat for skill checks. So they could take feats and start gathering different skills that they can use luck instead. So if they're, what in this case, wisdom and intelligence is low, but they have a high luck, and they grab this feat, then they could use their luck instead of their wisdom for insight and their intelligence for investigation. They just seem to have a knack for it. And it's like almost like my first step into a branch of a number of feats for the same vibe of thing. And then when I put it together, I just put in like origin feats, fighting style feats. There are none there, but I made headers for them all to prep for the future. Heroic catalyst. So I've added more. Godborn are heroes, descended from the deities who made the world. Primoris made 3 children who made a selection of gods that lived in the outside realms, who have themselves created deities who can venture out into the material plane, and you are the child of one of these. So, deities of Bellum, god of warfare. I've got a couple. Descendant of Aleosius. We've heard that name before. Famous for their skill as a warrior. Ferocious strike. Getting to do an extra damage with an attack. Forceful maneuver. When you deal that extra damage, you get to provoke a save or knock them prone or push them back. Greater force. A little extra damage on when you're doing your extra damage instead of a d10, it's 2d10. And when you deal your forceful strike damage, you have advantage on attacks against it until the end of your next turn. So making it where you're more likely to be able to keep attacking the same person. And then forceful advantage, making it where instead of prone or knockback, you also have the choice for stun. Great. So little tree here of powers that for this descendants of this deity are all building on a single attack that just gets better, where you get improvements to a specialized attack. Descendant of Django, known for having the bravery and spirit of a lion. You get a leap. Your strength increases. It counts as higher for long jump. And if you're a druid, and you can change into a high enough challenge rating, with Wild Shape, you always know Lion, and it doesn't count against one of the known forms because we're in the Druids, 2024, you have a certain number of known forms. This is an extra one. It doesn't really add any power to what I feel like that level 1 power is, your stats, your jump, but it's an extra little thing. It's fun. I was like, hey, I got a lion theme. Let's make it where if you take this and you are a druid, lion. Level 5, Roaring Shout. Based again on, I based things on the Monster Manual entry of Lion. I was like, well, what can I pull from lion theme stuff? So, I was like, let's do a roar. And whatever. So it's a save, or take thunder damage, which increases as you level up, and can use proficiency bonus times per long rest. So, level 11, again, from the line, Pack Tactics. So advantage if you're near an ally. You also have advantage on saving throws you make to avoid or end the frightened condition if you see an ally that is within 30 feet of you. So, yeah, normal Pack Tactics stuff, but also not being afraid. And then 17, Fearless is just immunity to frightened, and a +1 to strength up to 30. And then Descendant, and both of those were made for the Sword and Sorcery campaign, where I'm just coming up with things randomly, not tied to anyone requesting anything. This next one, under Deities of Ella, Goddess of Beauty, is Descendant of Shamir. I had a player that was like, hey, I want to be like related to like the God of Dreams. So I was like, okay, I made the God of Dreams. So level 1 is Good Dreams. You get some wisdom. When you finish a long rest, you get heroic inspiration, and you get to choose a tool to have proficiency in until your next long rest. Cool. Level 5, Sleep Tight. You get to cast Sleep without expending a spell slot. There's not a limit to how often you can do it. It's like a level 1 spell. Whatever. You just cast level 1 Sleep without expending a spell slot. Why not? Level 11, Master of Nightmares. Summon, Aberration, Fiend, and Undead spells are always prepared. You get them once per long rest, and can use spell slots for them. So the idea of like some of the scarier summons, like you can pull things out of nightmares. Again, like how can we do something with dreams and make it more aggressive? And then Dream Mage, Dream, Fear, Phantasmal Force, and Phantasmal Killer spells always prepared, once a long rest for free, and use spell slots for them. Again, so this ended up being very castery. And obviously, because you can use each one once per long rest, you can take this as a non-caster character, and still, it adds a lot of flavor of different fun things you can do, but as a caster, it just adds a bunch of free spells for you as well. Great. So then we have under Flos, God of Nature, we have Descendant of Placia, who is, again, one of the ones I made for the Sword and Sorcery region. Not tied to anyone's character. Obviously, characters could take it, but I don't think any of them are. At least not yet. But the idea behind building this world and playing multiple games in it is this document keeps growing. And maybe someone hasn't selected it now and they will in the future. Or maybe Descendant of Shamir, maybe in a future game, a different player is like, I want to be that. You know, you did that as a wizard. I'm going to do it now as a barbarian who now gets these spells that I can throw out. Why not? Palacia. Celebrates both the beauty and usefulness of plants that plants bring to life. Level 1, Naturally Proficient. Proficiency in 3 skills from that list, or skills or tools from a list. Level 5, Plant Magic. Druidcraft, Thorn Whip cantrips, and you also always have Entangle and Bark Skin prepared. Once a prolonged rest, you can use them, or use spell slots. Level 11's Expertise in 2 of the skill proficiencies of your choice. Obviously, you got 3 skills earlier. You could choose those, but I was like, I don't feel like limiting it to that list on this one. Let's just, whatever, just 2 expertises. Not bad. And then 17 is Better Bark. When you use Bark Skin, which I know you have because I gave it to you with Plant Magic, to toughen a creature, you can also grant resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage for the duration of the spell, and that extra bonus can only be on 1 creature at a time. So I was like, hey, let's just upgrade Bark Skin. And then here's one that's kind of for the campaign. I have a player that wasn't exactly sure. They wanted to be sort of and it's a thing that we discussed. He's like, they were like, I don't like being the wizard. I don't want to do a wizard. So we came up with a way that he could be a marshal, like a fighter, soldier kind of person that has a vested interest because of family ties into wanting this wizard school to succeed. So basically, they're working off a relative's tuition by helping with founding things so that when their kid brother grows up, they can attend the school for free. I was like, perfect. That class variety within the party. So that's going to help. Now they have a martial character. They weren't going to. But I came up with a couple background options. So if he wants to be descended from Richmond, so under Regina, goddess of nobility, is Richmond, who has pledged himself to protect some of history's greatest kings and queens. So the idea of like this low fourth tier deity that has throughout history showed up a few times to like be the royal guard. So this is all about defending allies, and also like as I went through it. Like, the first 3 all ended up being names that were D and A, so by the 4th ability, I was like, how do I name it with the same letters? So, defend allies, counter dex increased by 1, training with shields, and ally within 5 feet of you, hit by an attack, take a reaction to make it where all of the allies within 5 feet of you get whatever AC bonus your shield gives you added to them until end of your next turn. Level 5, draw aggression. And again, counter dex increases by 1. Because I'm giving the stat bonus on here because these are all things that are very much, they're using up your actions. They're additional resources. They're new things that you're having to do. So they're not always going to come up because obviously that's competing with things like your class abilities. So I'm like, let's also raise the stat. So if you don't do them, you still get a little bonus to a lot of the normal other things you're doing. So, draw aggression, bonus action, to encourage creatures to focus their aggression on you instead of your allies. Attack rolls against any allies within 5 feet of you at disadvantage until the end of your next turn. 11, dodge assist, again, counter dex increase. And you and any of your allies that are within 5 feet of you have advantage on dex saves unless you have the incapacitated condition. And 17, damage aversion. Again, counter dex increase. The range of the 3 abilities above, 5 feet, 5 feet, 5 feet, each one of them, increases to 10. So you're able to protect a bit of a slightly larger range of allies. And when you use the bonus action for that draw aggression, make it where there's a disadvantage to attack the allies right around you. I will have to change that. I will make them out. I put 5 feet, and that's supposed to now be 10 because it just increased to 10 feet. But you and your allies within 10 feet get resistance to 1 damage type of your choice. So you also get to be like, I'm resistant, but if they still choose to attack them, they're also resistant to help defend further. We get to the Star Blessed. We've gone over Star Blessed and Heroic Wizard, which I don't think anyone's going to take. I don't think anyone ended up needing Historic Wizard, but it's always there if someone wants to be like, no, I'm a druid that casts like a wizard. It's now a thing that's available. Nobleborn is one that I had a request for. I had developed Wealthy. I think that's new, and we'll get to that. But they're like, I don't want to be money based. I want to be nobility. Nobleborn come from a family of nobles, with privilege and status, but far enough down that you're not likely to actually inherit the responsibility of your family's title. Noble benefits, increase to charisma, and you have a skilled hireling in your employ paid for by your family. There are rules for how expensive it is to hire someone in the player's handbook. You can hire artisan or someone to come along with you. Here's just, you have someone that is doing that. You don't have to worry about paying for it. Your family is paying for you to have someone along with you. They're loyal, willing to put their life at risk for you, though it may take a significant time to replace them if they do die. So I think there's like a reason for you to keep them alive, but just basically I'm going to write that in there. No, they will risk life for you. Between honor of your noble family. Like, they respect who you and your family are. And also probably whatever the benefits that their family would get if, they happen to perish in this. They know that their family will be taken care of. So they're willing to risk it. So use the Commoner stat block. Commoner stat block says they get a training with one skill. You get to choose what that is. Also, they have proficiency with one tool of your choice, or you can give them a bonus to hit points equal to twice your proficiency bonus. So if you use this, when using this Commoner stat block, you get some bonuses to just make it a little bit better because the Commoner stat block is really weak. You also own 2 horses, and you own your choice of either a carriage, which is bigger, fancier, carries more, or a wagon, and 2 military saddles. Smaller carrying device, but if you want to ride off just on horse, you have that. So it's stuff, a person, and charisma. Noble skills. You gain proficiency in a combination of 2 skills chosen from animal handling, deception, history, persuasion, or tools, calligrapher's supplies, gaming set, and a musical instrument. You gain expertise in one of the skills from that list that you have proficiency with. So whether you immediately skill it and then expertise it, or if you already had one of them skilled, you get 2 more and also add an expertise. Also, that power of having the hireling up above, if you want to switch them out for a guard or a noble of lower rank, you can do that. When you're in a settlement where your family has influence. So you might have to go back home to switch them out, but you can switch them out. Level 11, Noble's Guidance. When you finish a short or long rest, you can give instruction on a task to allies who listen to your guidance, which can include yourself. Choose a skill that you are proficient in. Your allies add 1d4 to the first ability check they make using the chosen skill before they finish their next short or long rest. The number of allies you can affect this way equals your proficiency bonus, and it does not stack with guidance, because it's basically just, you have guidance until you need it. Non-magical. But you can't get bonus from both. Also, that hireling, if you now are in one of those places where your family has influence, you can change them out for a performer, a priest acolyte, a scout, or a tough, which is the name of one of the creature stat blocks in the monster manual. And then 17, Noble Talent. You gain virtuosity with one of the skills that you currently have expertise in. I'm not going to tell you what that is yet. That is a new thing that when we get to new rules, virtuosity comes up. Also, can exchange your hireling out for a druid, a mage apprentice, a priest, or a spy. Then we have Outworlder, which is definitively a request that I had for a character. I've technically played in Amotra for all of a few minutes. I ended a campaign with characters doing some world hopping and finding their way there. And when they landed there, kind of got themselves settled up and like, oh, here we go. You've escaped the dying world and you've found your way to this world. Well, I had a wife that wanted to have her character be descendant from the character that hopped in from another world. I was like, that's fun. So I made this kind of where it would work for whether they come in from the holes in between the planes or if they come from space somehow. You're going to be an outworlder. Someone descended from or coming from another world. You traveled through space or between the planes. So it ties to like aberration-y kind of thing and luck, be it good or bad. So first ability, good and bad luck. Increase your luck score by 1 to a maximum of 20. And whenever you make a d20 test with advantage or disadvantage, you use a high variance d20 for the second die that you add. Now, high variance d20 is specifically a thing that is done by Wormwood, who made my table. They also have done some dice campaigns, and they did high variance dice, which is the idea of they pushed all the numbers in the middle of a dice towards the outside. So there's like 3 20s and 3 1s. There's like 2 19s and 2 2s. Probably 2 17s and 2 16s, and then like the middle, like there's no like 9, 10, 11, like all those are gone. They've taken those numbers away and pushed them towards the 2 outer ends. Using that with advantage and disadvantage means that when you have advantage, you are more likely to get a 20. When you have disadvantage, you are more likely to get a 1. Oh yeah, it's fun. It's statistically going to have the same average number, but I was like, I finally find a way to have a reason to use that dice. Otherworldly voices at level 5. Luck increases by 1. You always have dissonant whispers prepared. Cast it once. Use spell slots for it as well. Like almost like, oh, you hear the voices that I heard going through the planes or through space. Whatever. Speak through space. You can form a telepathic connection between your mind and the mind of another. As a bonus action, choose one creature you can see. Chosen creature can communicate telepathically with each other. You need a language shared. And it lasts until you form a connection with another creature or use a bonus action to end it. So you can just say, if you want to tie it to an NPC and like character's family, you can do that. If you want to use it to communicate with the party, you can do that too. Also, resistance to psychic damage. 17 is Step Through Space. Misty Step, Dimension Door, and Teleport always prepared, once per day, and use spell slots to cast them if you want. Second generation Sorcerer. Sorcerers have magic in their blood. Your parent was a sorcerer. You still have some of that magic. This is again for a player, someone a request. Like the idea, like they're historic wizard was wizard light. Can I get a sorcerer light and just play a wizard? Sure. So it doesn't pair with sorcerer, obviously. You get in sorcerer powers. You can't also be a sorcerer. 2 cantrips. 2 level 1 spells from sorcerer. You get to cast them once per long rest and use spell slots for them. Charisma is your spellcasting ability. Unless you have spellcasting, in which case you can use whatever that ability is. I didn't add Pact Magic because Pact Magic already uses Charisma, so whatever, that's fine. Level 5, Meta Magic. You get 2 Meta Magics. You get 2 sorcery points. That's basically this. There's a feat that does the same thing. Level 11, Stronger Blood. You get a level 2 and a level 3 sorcerer spell. Again, once per day. And 2 more sorcery points. Level 17, you get a level 4 and a level 5 sorcerer spell to cast once per day. You learn a 3rd meta magic option. And you get 2 more sorcery points. Son of a Soldier. When I made that Godborn for defending the crown, I made another option that could be used for a fighter kind of character. This one. You are the child of a soldier. Son of a soldier has alliteration. It doesn't have to be a son. Whatever. You grow up moving about at least once or twice as duty demanded. You got exposure to both the art and combat and the attitude of an army. You get soldier's skills. You get light armor and proficiency with 1 skill. 1 skill? Not 2? Oh, that's why. 1 skill and a fighting style feat. All level 1. Sorry. Both of those are level 1. I was like, that seemed too weak. No, you also get another feat. It's a fighting style feat, which makes it a weak feat. But, for example, defense is recommended. Defense is +1 to AC, which is rare to get. There's other options. Far Traveler. You traveled around with the army a lot. Advantage on the saves to avoid exhaustion for forced march. +5 speed. And you gain expertise in one of the skills from that list above for the soldier's skills. That you already are proficient with, of course. Soldier's Talent. That virtuosity from before in one of the skills you have expertise in. Ooh, what is that? We'll get to that shortly. And you can don or doff armor in half the normal time. And level 17 Combat Mastery. Any ability score of your choice, +1 up to 30. And you get to use a mastery property of a weapon. Most likely, Son of a Soldier is going to be played by a fighter that already has several, but whatever, what's one more weapon you have kind of mastery with at a time. More options. It's fine. Wealthy. Wealthy is one that I did, was not tied. No one requested this. It was a thing in my brain and that I did before doing many of the other ones. Come from money. Inherited over time. Level 1 cash to burn. You just start play with an extra 1,000 gold. Level 5, you get some property. If we're using the Bastion system, you get a Bastion, and it has some more normal, like, basic rooms. If not, then whatever, you get a small manor house. Level 11, Extraordinary Gift. You get either 5,000 gold or a rare magic item and 1,000 gold. And then level 17, you get another secret room that you discover in the property you got. And then either 20,000 gold that was stored there, or randomly determined very rare magic item from a couple lists. New rules system. I am not going to read through all of this rules system, but I am running a wizard campaign. Part of the idea behind it is that the players can modify spells to make new spells, with the idea that in future campaigns, those spells will exist. Other characters can take them. So that is a thing that some of them will be doing as part of this. That is a thing that I got some interest with, so I had to codify it as a rules system so that it could function. So whatever, I spent Easter with a notepad and just started writing down ideas for it. And so I got something that works. Hopefully, I've not used it, but making them first make a plan, which gives me time to prep what they will need. We'll see on the next page the chart that I have to prep for every time they do this. Then they have to spend in-game time preparing the ritual. Basically, it eats up. It's not something that's quick. It takes days. And then they have to gather enough wizards together. Historic Wizard will work. Really, I think Ritual Adept is like a level 1 wizard feature, so characters could just dip into wizard if they have other spellcasting ability and use, and do it that way. They have to have the Ritual Adept class feature. So you have to get multiple other wizards involved. So not every campaign is it going to be a thing. But if randomly in some future campaign they're like, three of us want to play wizards, they could technically still do this. This isn't something exclusive to this campaign. It just requires there to be multiple wizards. But yeah, it's a process for doing that. I add note to add your name to a spell, like a way to do that. And then this chart is the chart for sending. This is a kind of chart an example of a chart that I will have to make for every spell that they want to modify, where I take the colored wavy line there is the default of what sending is, and then a point variation that, for going more or less powerful. Like, I'm pretty sure that with sending, I did sending because I know one of my players wants to modify sending to make a weaker version of sending that they can use with lower level spell slots. They're like, I don't need to reach another plane. I might not to reach someone that's outside of the city I'm in, but I don't want to be spending my 3rd level slots for it. I'm like, that's fair. A level 1 sending that you can just, like, in-city communication? Why not? But yeah, so I just broke it down. And then here's Virtuosity. I will read this. It is a feature that enhances your use of a skill proficiency. When you make an ability check with a skill proficiency in which you have Virtuosity, your proficiency bonus is tripled for that check, unless your bonus is tripled by another feature. And you can gain Virtuosity. If you gain it in one skill which you have Expertise. You can't have Virtuosity in this game, skill proficiency, more than once. Basically, this is Expertise, but instead of doubled, it's tripled. It's a new, more powerful thing that I could use to make some of my Heroic Catalysts have a new level of power. And then I might give certain features in subclasses that I'm making. I might give it to just a new, here's a more fancy thing. So, if Expertise isn't powerful enough, Virtuosity. Let's see, what else do I got? I got some empty pages here. We got Origins of the World. We've gone through this, but when we went through it before, as you'll see these colored bits, Krita created Tempest, goddess of time, Mortem, god of death, Doctrina, goddess of learning, Ella, goddess of beauty. These are all newly added, so they're colored. I can barely tell, but you might be able to if you're not color deficient. Urbs, god of civilization. Anyways, so I've now updated it to add the names of the gods, or terminus and halls of time, down on the lower left here. The names of some planes that come up. But yeah, so I've modified that document. Also noting, at the end I added another section, Lands of Amotra. It's made up of 4 primary continents and a great many smaller islands. The 4 continents are Galu in the south. I'm just going to hop back and forth, hold on. Southern continent down here. South. Galu. Lata, to the north of Galu. Obviously, on a globe scale, everything is north of the planet that has the South Pole. But my brain, and hopefully yours, understands that that makes this Lata. Eremus, found following the equator around the world from Lata. So, equator, it's going to be this one. Eremus. The bunny-shaped one. And then, just below that, let's see. Eremus, found following the equator around the world from Lata. And the smallest continent, Domus, is just south of Eremus. So, Domus, Eremus, Galu, and Lata are the 4 main continents, landmasses. And I needed this because I have at least one character that is coming from Galu, whereas the most of the campaign is taking place on Lata. And so there is someone who has traveled amongst continents, so it's important. Languages. Languages in Amotra are primarily spoken by region. This is just a pet peeve of mine, because I think the idea that dwarves all around the world all speaking the same language is absurd. What do you mean dwarven? That's not a language. It's a dwarven craftsmanship could be a thing, but dwarven language... But which dwarves? In what part of the world? That's not how language develops. I have it for Ancient Elven, with the idea that before the elves spread out, when they were all together, that was their language. But over time, elves generally speak the language in the region where they live. No one just speaks Ancient Elven. That's no one's primary language. Sorry. It is uncommon for people to be... it is not uncommon for people to be fluent in more than one language. List of languages is still a work in progress. I say here, you can reserve any number of your languages, known selections as +1s on your character sheet, and select them if they come up in game for the time being. Because I don't have all the languages figured out yet, I'm just basically like, yeah, just put to be determined. Ancient Elven, in the past by elves, is dead language. Ormin, in and around Aramnis, and Mund around Heimat. So those 2 named nations that I have on Lata are the 2 that I've also named the language of. I need to come up with other nations between them and potentially languages for those as well. Oh, we're starting to get close to the end of the document, but we do still have gods and realms of Amotra. So I break down the tiers of gods. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Tier 1 is Primoris. Tier 2 is Krita, Ignis, and Stella. Tier 3 is the gods that those deities created. There's a finite list. It's and the gods and the devils that they created. And so those are the ones in that origin of the world story. Those are those gods. Tier 4 are any of the gods that are in that story, anything that they've created. That is a non-definite list. I will continue to expand on that list of Tier 4 deities, potentially as long as I'm playing in this campaign. And Tier 5 is the Godborn. That's the heroic catalyst. You can play those as players. So I just kind of break that down. And then I have each of the gods. So Bellum, God of Warfare. I don't have a lot of their info, but I have little spots ready to put it. But I have the domains for everything in here. So that if we have clerics, we have a domain for them to select. And then, whatever with the font, Aloysius and Django are both under Bellum. Then we get to the next one, Dolor, Insania. For the devils, where they don't note, god or goddess, I put little, because I bothered to decide, Primoris, the first tier 1 deity, is not gendered. All the others are. And so I was like, okay, I bothered to come up with like male, masculine, or feminine for like each of the devils, but they're still devil. I'm not devilish. So I bothered to put little notes here where eventually there will be a description, as you will see in some, like Une, firstborn of magic, whose symbol is a violin with black strings. And Une is a pale human woman with long black hair that falls straight down to her feet. I didn't specify, but the idea is the black strings are like almost like her hair to play music on is magic. So the firstborn of magic. So otherwise, yeah, we just got a lot of them are just names and domains and not a lot of detail. I think we should get to some though. Yeah, here's some. So under Regina, Goddess of Nobility, we have Richmond. Who would get in basically the ones that have detail are the ones that I'm like, oh, I need this for character that's coming in potentially. So symbol, a shield bearing the image of a crown and scepter. Typical worshippers. I don't have that in a whole lot, but city and royal gods both are likely to give honor to Richmond, as are many who live or work in the homes of highborn nobles. And seen as a fit human man, wearing silver chainmail armor, and has appeared several times throughout history to pledge his services to various honorable kings and queens. So I mentioned some of that up in the Godborn section, just a little more detail here. Shamir, symbol, I love this, a closed eye, like the imagery of like a shut eye, tilted at an angle that also appears like the slit of the curve of the closed eye is a crescent moon. I'm like, beautiful. Dreamer of dreams. Nighttime. And, eyes shut for sleeping. Yeah. Viewed as an elven or human woman with silvery blonde hair who is always seen somewhat obscured by fog or clouds. Almost the idea of, yes, these are still gods. They're seen in different ways. Some of them, like Richmond, very much seems like he just appears like a person. His special thing is he's appeared throughout history. And then Placia, golden flower, also has some details there. Wood elf with golden hair, eyes that shine as deep pools of light. Symbol is a flower, and a specific type I had to look up. Typical worshippers, druids, elves, farmers, foragers, and rangers from around the nation of Munal, as if this is a deity that's mostly appeared in a specific region of the world. And then I also have realms of Amotra. So basically, it's introduction to the idea of the realms, the echoes of Amotra, and the outer realms. Echoes are the elemental planes and the underworld, which are all like mirrors of the world itself. Big city in Amotra, big city in the same location on the plane of air, or the realm of air. Halls of time are my hallways of little hourglasses as time sand slips through souls, the hourglass themselves. So I have little details on there. Terminus, who is basically the other end, the caves, the caverns that connect to all of the realms where the dead souls may have their final resting place, to the halls of time, where departed souls are passed on and carried on to their final resting place. And then Wonderland, which I have only a little detail of because it's the realm, because I named it. I was like, I like Alice in Wonderland. Big fan of Alice in Wonderland. It's in the public domain. I use it. I love it. It's mine. But I was like, let's make that the realm of the god of trickery. And also, I wanted the Forest of Fae to be where the god of trickery went and made the Fae. So I'm like, okay. Well, then that therefore means the Forest of Fae is a location inside of Wonderland. And so I just wrote enough of the description of that place to finish that. And I think that's the end. That is the end. Okay, yeah. Hour and 10 minutes. So yeah, that's been a month. Maybe more, but probably not 2 months. Less than 2 months, probably more than a month of working on the world. First with, let's continue to work on location names. I'll need those. And then, let's work on location names over here. I'm going to do another campaign. And then, they need to make characters. And just really delving into, here's what I really need to have available for my players to make characters soon. I think I have everything they need to make characters. I need a few time and region names in order to really play, like, whatever. I have a player that's making a character that's going to a school. We're at a seminary. And that's where they're going to start. So they might want to have that for character creation, but I might tell them, wait a week. I'll have it by the time we get session 1. But yeah. It's getting real. I'm actually going to play in Amotra. I do not believe that I could possibly record another one of these before I play in Amotra. So by the time I am updating you again on creating the world, I will just be playing in it. And with how much things have gone into overdrive in doing world building since I've been preparing to run in it, I am definitely prepared with the idea of it might even get more extreme, on and off, once I'm actually just running in the world and things come up. But I've rambled on long enough. Like, comment, subscribe. And if you've not subscribed over on Jade Kind Gaming Presents The Observatory, go subscribe over there as well. That is where the actual play videos of me playing in the campaign with my players, making their characters, and going through the campaign, this wizard campaign, and likely other future campaigns, will be shared. So as I continue to build in Amotra, I will also have videos there where we're just playing in it. And sometimes the way world building happens is I need to improvise the thing in the moment because I have a player that's like, I do this. And I'm like, okay, sure, that exists. And therefore I've said it, and now all of a sudden it exists. Because world building does not stop once you start playing. It just gets more extreme and more rapid. Like, comment, subscribe. Thank you for watching.